individuals in the workplace. This is near and dear to my heart. For you that don't know, I am your host, Jevon Wooden, and my father is actually a justice involved individual. He is serving a life sentence. So this was near and dear to my heart when I met Jacqueline. I'm going to let her introduce herself because she can do it better than I can. So, Jacqueline, how are you today? Tell us a little bit about yourself and why this topic is near and dear to your heart.
Well, hello, Jevon. This topic is near and dear to my heart because, similar to you, my father was a justice impacted individual as well. However, he has passed away. So, rest in peace, Dad. But anyway, I am here because I'm the leader of learning and development at JBM Packaging. And so, part of my job is to hire and do some coaching with our justice impacted workforce. At JBM, we have about 46% of our workforce that is fair chance. And so we really have put together a program called our Better Lives program to help individuals become the best version of themselves. And so hopefully I'll get to share a little bit of that information with you all today.
Absolutely, because I know the leaders that are listening are like, okay, we want to do a fair chance program, second chance program, whatever you want to call it. We want to give that second chance because they've done their time, they've served their contribution to society based on whatever they were in for. So now they're just trying to live their lives and not go back to that world. So tell us a little bit more. You mentioned JBM packaging, and when I spoke to you, I was like, I have to get you on. I have to have this conversation with you on live. So thankfully, you said yes. Tell us a little bit more about what you are doing at JBM Packaging to ensure not only that you hire that for 46%, but also that they are successful in their roles.
So at JBM Packaging, when we bring individuals on, we usually hire them their first 90 days as a temp.
Mhm.
And then once they come on full time, they enter into what we call like our Better Lives program. So, our Better Lives program is designed to help them grow both personally and professionally at JBM. So, what we do is they have coaching once a week for the first 6 months. And that really is designed to help them around like transportation issues, housing issues, to make sure they are kind of reacclimating into society. Okay. I mean, we talk about, personal issues, relationship issues, anything you can think of, we discuss in those sessions. As well as we are also talking about, things that would help them be better on their job. So that could be from anywhere into how to deal with their supervisor or, how to deal with the people that they work with. Sometimes just being incarcerated for long stints of time, and some individuals are not working while they are incarcerated, just coming out and jumping right into a job. Sometimes that can be a difficult transition. So we try and make it as easy as possible where they can have a place to go to express themselves and talk about, some of the challenges that they might be having. And so that coaching actually, it doesn't stop at 6 months. It extends out an entire year. It's just the latter half of that 6 months is biweekly and then monthly coaching, because at the end of it, we hope that, we have a pretty well-rounded, individual who is now very confident in what they're doing on a daily basis. So we just kind of like to scale back.
Mhm.
And then the other thing that we do is we also offer some other services besides coaching. We have financial coaching where they can meet with a financial coach. We have like a roadmap to wheels program. So if individuals come into employment at JBM and don't have a vehicle, we will give them a vehicle free at no
Wow.
cost to them.
Wow.
Um, we also have parenting classes that we offer. We have a loan program in-house in JBM. Once a team member has been with us at least 6 months, we also will reimburse for things like physicals and for, shoes that they wear. And those are just kind of some incentives, to keep people doing the right thing, keep people healthy. We reimburse for gym memberships, so we really are trying to make our people at JBM a well-rounded individual. It's not just making sure, their finances are taken care of, making sure they have housing and transportation, and making sure they can communicate what they need.
No, this is absolutely phenomenal for several reasons. One, giving them a shot, understanding that are not there, whatever their crime was. The second thing is the whole person aspect, understanding like, to be the best version of yourself, you have to be supported inside and outside of the workplace. So providing vehicles and all these things that come into play with this program. I'm curious to know how you all landed on creating. What does it look like from the time they become aware of your program or your opportunities, or the time you become aware of them? How do you select the folks that you'll bring into the program? How did you come about providing such support for them? All of the things. I just want to know all the details, Jacqueline.
So the program really started several years ago, and really it came out of a need. Really, Fair Chance hiring at JBM came out of a need of having more work to do than actually people to do the work.
Mm,
And so originally, our CEO, who is Marcus Shing, he was very opposed to actually hiring individuals who had a felony background. That was like a total no go for him. And then after, really digging into some information about it and really seeing that, yes, these individuals might have some sort of background, but there are a lot of individuals who really want a second chance and want to change their lives. He was really sold on it. So we really began hiring Fair Chance team members actually 10 years ago. But the Better Lives program itself, where we have all these different resources, has been in existence about 5 years. And so, really, some of the services like the coaching, originally that stuff was all like contracted out. But
mm,
what JBM found is it's really better to have these services in house because, when you have people who are working in house, they can really get to know every individual on the workforce. Like, personally, they can build a relationship, build rapport with the individuals. It's not like you got to call somebody to come in and see them, they're
right.
already on site. So it's really just help grow like that engagement piece within our workforce because they know that, somebody is there no matter what they are going through, somebody is there. And so the way that we hire individuals who are justice impacted is we actually hire from a lot of the halfway houses here in Cincinnati. Specifically, we use like Talbert House, VOA quite a bit. And so we have like a specific program that, we send like a link out to. It's actually a new company called Resume. They're a
Mhm.
tech company. And so they load all their information, but it's not just a typical like fill out your resume. It actually gives them a chance to kind of let us know like what they've done in prison, like what type of classes they've completed, what type of, work have they done, what certificates have they earned. So it really focuses on that as well as like what supports they'll have outside. So we want to know not just about the crime, but we want to know like, what are you doing to change yourself? And so this platform gives them the opportunity to do that. And then once they filled out that information, they take a brief math test. And then, as long as everything is a go, the only crimes we don't accept at JBM is crimes against like children or a partner, and then also sex crimes. So
Right.
anything other than that is a go, and then we pass that information on, and then we bring them on as a temp, usually for the first 90 days. And as long as they are, doing well, coming to work every day, showing up, showing initiative, then we bring them on full time.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I'm curious about the coaching aspect. So, are your coaches trained in specific modalities of coaching, or maybe like trauma informed type of areas? What are the criteria to become a coach within this program?
So it's kind of a unique skill set because, yes, our coaches are trauma informed. We also do like, mental health, like first aid training. We also most have like some sort of social work, case management, background
Mhm.
as well. But then it's interesting because we're actually in a manufacturing company, so you
Right.
kind of have like a mix of at least a little bit of operations or something along those lines, where you kind of understand how a manufacturing facility operates and the type of people you're dealing with. So we have a mix of that, but then we really do a lot of our training in house, because we kind of have a set way that we do our coaching.
Mhm.
Once we bring individuals in, we do kind of like a get to know you, but then we create what we call like a better lives plan. And so that plan is really kind of essential in their growth. And that focuses on like their coping skills, how they coped in the past and how they cope now, what they do. Then it also focuses on like their supports. It focuses on like problem scenarios that they may encounter. Because we all know like there were things obviously that got you in prison. So, okay, let's revisit that information and really dig in and see how we can make better choices and what our plan of action would be going forward. And then we talk about like short term, long term goals. And then we have just some other things that we coach around, like, if you are reuniting with a child or children,
Mhm.
after coming out of incarceration, what that relationship may look like, and, what are some things that maybe you need to work through because it may not be the same. As well as we have a lot of individuals sometimes who are dealing with grief coming out, whether they lost a parent or, friend, relative. So we're dealing with that as well. So we try and individualize it after we create our Better Lives plan, really around the individual. But then we have some things that, we just focus on in terms of like growth mindset and innovation and things like that, that we really can grow them specifically in their role as well.
Yeah, no, this is it's amazing, and I'm curious to know like what is you invest so much in it. What is the retention like for these justice impacted individuals when they come into JBM?
Yeah, so we retain quite a few individuals. I would say within their first 90 days or so, we're usually at about a 50 to 60% retention rate. Um, our turnover rate has changed quite a bit. I mean, we're rapidly just trying to change and adjust to, this new workforce and new
Absolutely.
individuals. So, right now our turnover rate ranges about 14 to 16%. So, we really are trying to do everything that we can to retain the individuals. Now, keep in mind, we do understand that when people are starting off, they are starting off in an entry level role.
Right.
So you're not going to be able to retain every single individual. But really, our goal is more so how can we help this individual be the best version of themselves, whether they stay at JBM or whether they go somewhere else.
No, and that was my next question. So you just answered it, and I believe that a program like this, I hear a lot of organizations talk about it, but the level at which you all have matured your programming is something that we can all learn from. Because it's not easy. I'm assuming
No.
that you, like you mentioned, 50% turnover. There's a lot of criteria that they need to check because you are a business. You need them to
Hmm.
operate at a specific level. What does it look like? So, for you for promotional possibilities for these individuals? Is it once they get in, they can sky's the limit, or is it they have like specific tracks, being that they may not have like the education or experience?
So once they come in as a machine operator, they have a couple of different possibilities. So one, they can move into kind of the next position, which would be like a tender role.
Mhm.
So that would be where they're able to do some very basic work on the machines, but they're not skilled enough to be what would be our highest level of like an apprenticeship would be like an adjuster role. So they're able to really like take the machines apart, fix all sorts of things. But basically, that would be the track would be like machine operator to tender to adjuster.
Nice.
So individuals can do that. Now, we also have what we call our Better Leaders leadership training. So that's a training where we're identifying like high performing individuals or those who are in a lead position, which would be kind of similar to like an assistant manager position, putting them through 6 months of training, and then they can come out and be better equipped to be some sort of leader in the organization. And then we have one more area within JBM, and that's in our printing department where individuals can learn to be an apprentice in that department as well.
Nice. Are you finding like do other organizations just reach out to y'all like, how did you do this? Can you show us? Because if I was listening, I would likely reach out to you because we don't have to reinvent the wheel, and it's very successful from what we're hearing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We get quite a few individuals, companies who reach out, who I speak with in terms of how to start this. I always tell people, you are seeing more of a finished product at JBM. I mean, granted, we're always trying to make things better, but I mean, it's definitely not at the beginning stages. But if you are trying to start something, you don't have to start with every single thing. I always recommend people start with some sort of coach within their facility. And the reason being is just because you need somebody who understands your people and understands what they're going through and what their needs are. And once you kind of have that person, then you can start building, other things outside of that. So whether that's
Mhm.
transportation, housing, finances, whatever that might be or look like for your organization. But you need kind of that person or people that are there to talk with your people on a regular basis and really get an understanding for what they're going through.
Awesome. And we have a question. They said, what
Yeah.
are some actionable steps companies can take to safely and effectively hire justice impacted individuals?
So I would say the first thing would be doing more of a holistic assessment of
Mhm.
the individual. So I know, when you're hiring, usually you go through the technical part of, tell me about your experience. But um, one thing that we do, and depending on how you hire justice impacted individuals, because we're hiring a lot of them who are through the halfway house,
Mhm.
we already know that they have committed some sort of crime. So they're very open with the crime that they've committed, and they don't mind having a conversation around what happened. And so, that can be, helpful as well, because sometimes what you see on paper doesn't always explain really what actually happened. It could be involuntary manslaughter, and it could be, oh man, I was in the car at the time this happened, versus I actually, really partaked in, the whole incident. So just, I would say, just getting a little bit of understanding of, the crime that the individual has committed. The other thing is just understanding in terms of like housing, transportation, that sort of thing, where the individual is located. Is this something in terms of like supports? Do they have people that are like supporting them and are going to kind of help them along the way?
Mhm.
Those things are questions, just general questions that, you can ask individuals that'll give you maybe a little bit more background on, what you might be dealing with. And then I would say, lastly, the other thing is just training your supervisors. I think that's something that a lot of people underutilize is middle managers are everything in an organization. And sometimes we don't utilize training them enough. So even if you hire just this impacted individuals, once they get there, you got to have people who are able to deal with them and work with them and understand them. So okay, they can, you can ask all the questions, but when they get there, having that manager that has been trauma informed, having that manager who has gone through some mental health training, having that manager who, understands how to communicate with people who might be a little bit more reluctant to authority. So those things are really important to do, like just within the organization as well, that may not take as much, time or effort except just doing the training.
Yeah, and that's so. I'm so glad you mentioned that, Jacqueline, because what I've seen a lot of, I focus a lot on empathetic leadership, and a lot of managers are glossed over. Like they do not get that type of
Mhm.
training, people leadership skills, and that in conflict resolution and difficult conversations, and all these things that you're speaking on right here. So I'm so glad that you all have taken it to that step. Like, hey, we can make sure that justice impacted individual is all good, but when they come into a manager and they have preconceived notions about them or don't agree with the program, then what happens? Right? Or are not trained on how to handle trauma or grief and all these different things. So glad that you all have realized that that needs to be an all-encompassing program for it to be successful. So I can understand why your retention is solid. I know you mentioned like 16%. That's actually really good right now,
Mhm.
and especially dealing with the populations that you're
Yeah.
you're talking about hiring. My next question would be around the coaching aspect. So, is it like a sweet spot you found? Like we should have one coach to every 10 individuals, or do you all just say, hey, we got five coaches going to do their thing?
Um, Two coaches is usually sufficient. I mean, we have a workforce of 150.
Hmm.
And so, about half of that workforce is fair chance. So, I mean, because you have different people at different levels, like I said, they get the once a week coaching every week for the first 6 months, and then it tapers off. So even though you might have a caseload, let's say of about like 20 to 25, you're not seeing every individual on that caseload every week. So yeah.
Okay, no, that makes sense. We have
Hmm.
one more question before we start to wrap up. So, how can teams
Sure.
be prepared to create an inclusive and supportive environment, especially regarding the justice impacted individuals?
So one way is just training. You have to train your people. The other thing is, from the top of your organization down to the bottom of your organization, everybody has to be on the same page as well. So, and I probably should have said that first. Really, your CEO has to be on board and has to communicate this is what we're doing. And then once that's communicated and everybody has that understanding, then I would say training is the next step. You have to train, your leadership team, you have to train your middle management team, because even though we like to think that everybody understands how to deal with individuals who have been just as impacted, everybody doesn't, and it is a difference sometimes in those who have served 10 years in prison versus a person who has not. And so and it's not that those individuals are not capable of work and are not committed and can't do it, because I am like I see it every day. They can definitely do it, but sometimes the steps look different for them. So when we're talking to supervisors, we're talking about like psychological safety. How can you make them feel safe in an environment where sometimes it mirrors like being in jail because you got, somebody who's in charge, somebody who's telling you what to do, and that's uncomfortable for them, so how do they have those conversations with their supervisor, and how do their supervisor have those conversations with them? So we talk about that. We also talk about um, just sometimes even positioning of when you're interacting with somebody. Sometimes people who have been incarcerated, they don't like when someone stands behind them or comes up suddenly. So how do we make sure, when we go to speak to them, that we're coming in front of them so that they can see us? So I mean, sometimes it's just very simple things, but it's just things that people don't think about because maybe they have never dealt with somebody who's been incarcerated, or that's just not their background. So having specific trainings around, communication, psychological safety, trauma, and what those things look like and how they show up is really important for an inclusive environment.
Man, this has been so informative. And I just want to make one point that everything we're saying here, me being a veteran, a lot of veterans have this same experience as those who are justice impacted. We don't like people walking behind us, all these things, the psychological safety aspect, hierarchical structures, getting information. So it's interesting. So I love that we mentioned that question about inclusivity. It really would apply to many more folks than we care to realize who may not feel comfortable enough
Mm-hmm.
admitting they need that type of support and care. So this is amazing. I know we do 30 minutes. I could talk about this for another probably hour and a half or more. But Jacqueline, really appreciate your time. Really appreciate your wisdom on giving a fair chance to justice impacted individuals in the workplace. How can the people connect with you?
Well, you can connect with me through our website, jbmpackaging.com. You can also connect with me through my email address, which is jcooley, Cooley, at jbmpackaging.com. I'm on LinkedIn, so you can always shoot me a message that way. But any of those platforms certainly can connect. And if nothing else, you can reach out to Jevon and he'll give you
Absolutely.
my
Absolutely.
information. Yes, but
No, awesome. Well, thank you so much. And again, if you have not connected with me, I am Jevon Wooden. You can search me on LinkedIn and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just search Jevon Wooden. I will pop up, and we have conversations like this all the time. Thank you so much for everyone who has tuned in. Appreciate you. And until next time, keep ascending. We'll see you soon.